You're watching Focus on Africa live from Nairobi on BBC News. Our stories today. Tanzanian police impose a curfew in Dar es Salaam as violent protests scar today's presidential election.
We want freedom of speech, we want an end to abductions, we want freedom of the media, and we want political parties to operate freely.
Elsewhere, there are mounting fears for the safety of civilians, both in and fleeing El Fasher, as Sudan's war escalates.
We have a colleague who lost up to 9 family members in El Fasher. Others are still in the frantic of trying to trace or trying to get into communication. There has been a total communication blackout.
And also, coming up in the program, as the Best of Africa Awards takes place in London, we hear from some of the winners who graced the red carpet. And how a kite festival in South Africa is raising awareness about mental health. Well, many thanks for your time. This is Focus on Africa. I'm Waihiga Mwaura. Well, let's begin in Tanzania, where the police there have enforced a curfew in the commercial capital Dar es Salaam after a tense election day marked by protests and unrest. Well, over the last few months, activists and human rights organizations have repeatedly raised concerns about a pattern of enforced disappearances and torture that they say has led to the silencing of critics and opposition parties. So much so that the main opposition parties did not contest today's election. Well, these are some of the scenes from earlier today where violent protests erupted in Dar es Salaam. We've seen demonstrators clashing with police in at least 4 neighborhoods. Tear gas was used to disperse crowds, and internet access remains disrupted nationwide. The BBC had also captured images showing bonfires on the road and, of course, more confrontations between authorities and protesters. Well, the government denies allegations of human rights abuses and insists that the election is free and fair. The government also restricted internet connection to limit communication on social platforms popular with the youth. Well, earlier, the BBC spoke to 2 people in Dar es Salaam about these polls.
After the protests broke out, the police came and fired tear gas to disperse the masses. Thereafter, more police came and the citizens started throwing stones at them. Police fought running battles with protesters. Meanwhile, I was in the BRT vehicle. We were afraid. The driver was afraid. The car was switched off and the doors failed to open.
We are Tanzanians. We want justice for this country. We are born here. We do not have another country. We want freedom of speech. We want an end to abductions. We want freedom of the media. And we want political parties to operate freely.
Well, in terms of latest updates, the internet remains down in Tanzania. But the BBC's Peter Mwangangi has been following the developments there closely and joins me now in studio. Peter, good to have you. We saw voting kicking off pretty early in the country and then some protests. How big and how impactful would you say they were?
From what you know is that there were protests in at least 4 neighborhoods in Dar es Salaam, the commercial hub of Tanzania, and then also in other towns across the country, including the southwestern town of Mbeya and also the Tunduma border, which is the border between Tanzania and Zambia. But because of the restriction in internet access, we've been unable to ascertain where else these protests have been witnessed and for how long, because that happened earlier on. The switch happened earlier on in the day.
Do we know what the result of the protest was? Because it was clashes with police. Were there casualties? What can you tell us about that?
From what we saw from our reporters on the ground, we saw several people being injured. You know, the protesters were barricading roads, lighting fires, others damaged infrastructure, including the bus terminal and some buses. And then the police fired back with some tear gas, and we saw some injuries. We've been unable to ascertain whether how many injuries there have been and how far that has gone, because again, we haven't also heard from the government.
And all this happening on a day when there was a presidential and parliamentary elections. I mean, a lot happening in the country on one day. What sense did you get of the voter turnout? What numbers do we have on that?
So different situations. Tanzania mainland and the semi-autonomous island of Zanzibar, where it was relatively calm. Our reporters there say that in the morning there was good turnout, people were queuing, and then, not many voters there, around 700,000. By midday, most had completed their voting, and it was just one or two people streaming into the voting stations. But across in the mainland Tanzania, because of some of those clashes, some people may have been hesitant to go and vote. But for us to get the full picture, we'll have to wait for the official results in a few days.
Are you aware vote counting has started, especially in mainland Tanzania, for example?
That is expected to be the case because voting was expected to close at 4 p.m. local time. Of course, if any voter was on the line was allowed to vote by that time. The idea is that after they are done, then the voting and the counting and the tallying starts.
I mean, some of the scenes that we've seen today are unprecedented, for Tanzania, bearing in mind, what we've seen in previous elections there. How did the country get to this?
So, for this particular election, 16 parties are going against the ruling party, CCM, which is the one that President Samia Suluhu Hassan is vying with. And there has been the feeling that she isn't going against strong contenders because two of the main opposition candidates have been disqualified. One of them, Tundu Lissu, is in prison facing treason charges. His party, Chadema, said that they would not participate because they do not believe that the electoral process is fair, free and fair. So another candidate from ACT Wazalendo, another political party, was disqualified just a few weeks before the election. So it has been a build-up of a number of people feeling that perhaps the playing ground is not level.
And at this moment, there is that overnight curfew in Dar es Salaam. Of course, we'll continue monitoring the situation. Peter Mwangangi, thank you for joining us with those updates.